Hey brothers and sisters, Groovy Kim here. Guess what? I just published my very first book. Yeah, it's called The Breath Dragon. It's for children and it's to help them to learn the importance of their breath and how it can help you to control your emotions. Now, as a parent of 3 adult men now, I've been through a lot, and I know what it's like to deal with children who are having emotional problems. My first marriage failed, and my boys had to take the brunt of it, and it was really tough on everyone in the family. And of course, all of us have things like this in our history that can cause not only anxiety, but leaving us sometimes feeling that we may not know what to do, especially when it comes to our children. We might not always have the answers on how to deal with not only our own emotions, for heaven's sakes, but our children's emotions and what they might be going through. So that's the reason why I wrote this book, The Breath Dragon. You can find it on Amazon. It's under Groovy Kim, of course, and also the title, The Breath Dragon. And I really highly recommend this for anybody who has a little one in their life. You might be a mom, you might be a grandparent, or maybe just have a loved one, niece or nephew, who could benefit from this. And quite honestly, we all could. I know as a little kid, nobody taught me about my breath or that it might be able to help me to deal or get through emotional issues. I mean, being armed with that kind of information can only help, right? And so that's why I wrote the book, and I really hope you check it out. I illustrated it as well, and as you can see, there's a cute little girl on the front. And sorry for the reflection. I dedicated it to my younger sister, and she was in a car accident when we were kids, and so I've dedicated it to her. Her name was Kelly, and so in the story, Kelly goes for a walk because she's not feeling well. She's sad, and she goes for a walk in the woods, and she meets the breath dragon, who teaches her some simple breathing exercises, and how to kind of center herself and realize that she really is the master of her emotions. And so I've got lots of wonderful illustrations. As you can see, there's Kelly when she first starts out sad in the forest, and then this is when she spots the dragon in the clearing, and they meet up, and he teaches her, like I say, simple breathing exercises of how to breathe through your nose and out through your mouth, and let your muscles kind of relax, and all of these skills that I kind of stop and think to myself, can you imagine if we were taught these skills when we were children? I mean, my goodness, how things might have turned out differently for myself anyway. I grew up in a family that was highly stressed out, and lo and behold, over years of stress, I didn't even realize. I thought I was a happy person, but as you do, you tend to kind of stuff stress into your body, and all humans do this. Well, most. Especially if you have a heart, right? And so it's important to teach each other, especially when we're young, that you can actually control some of this. You can control your own anxiety just through the power of your own breath. So please, I invite you to go on to Amazon, check it out. It's called The Breath Dragon, and you can either find it by the title, or better yet, put Groovy Kim next to it, and it'll surely come up for you. All right, I really appreciate that. Any help I can get, is so appreciated. After all, I quit my day job because I actually had a terrible bout. 2018, I was diagnosed with autoimmune disease and osteoarthritis and liver disease. I mean, it seemed like the list was going on as the doctors kept examining me and I was getting sicker. The bottom line is, I actually learned during the pandemic how to heal myself. I almost want to thank the pandemic, which is a terrible, weird thing to say, I know. I'm sorry if you lost someone during the pandemic for saying that, but honestly, it kind of saved my life because all of my doctor's appointments were canceled and it forced me to do something different. I was literally on death's door. I mean, I was disabled. I couldn't write my name. I couldn't, even hold a pen. I couldn't dress myself. I had to have my husband help me to the bathroom and bathe me. And it was just awful. And when the pandemic hit and all of my appointments were canceled, I literally panicked. I thought I was going to die. Well, when you're forced into something and you really feel that it's a life or death situation, it's amazing how you can just reach within, deep inside, and say, wow, there's got to be some other way. This is crazy. And sure enough, literally what I did was I went online and started researching. I've always been a scientist at heart anyway. So I had a quantum physics, a little bit of a background and also a medical background. I worked for a doctor for years and years. And so I thought, how curious that I could be this sick and actually figure out a way to heal myself all by myself. Geez, that didn't sound right. I take that back because it wasn't all by myself. I actually relied on all the wisdom of those that came before me, which literally has been for thousands of years, come to find out. And I didn't know that. I mean, I've heard of meditation. I've heard of slow, deep breathing, right? I've heard of breathing. And I knew physiologically that absolutely can help things, but I had no idea that you could actually reverse disease. I'm living proof. I did it. I went from being disabled to dancing at my wedding. And that's the truth, and I'm sticking to it. and I've never been happier in my whole life. I was a miserable child. I really was. Our family was fighting all the time. My sister got in a car accident, which, by the way, that's who this is dedicated to, my little sis Kelly. She's the one who discovers the dragon in the forest and teaches her the breathing exercises. And so, yeah, my family just went through a living hell, really. My father was overbearing and mean to everybody and especially abusive to my mother. And I ran away real young at the age of 16. Made my own way. I got straight A's in school. I moved to a whole nother state. I grew up in Washington State and I moved to California for a short stint and finished my schooling. Came home just in time to graduate. And but by that time, the damage had been done, right? All that stress of all those years of family fighting, and my sister Kelly being in the car accident. And by the way, we took care of her for about 8 years, I think. And she never did regain her full abilities. She was what you call in a vegetative state, meaning her eyes were open, but nobody was home. You know what I mean? And And we had to take care of her like that for years. And the toll that kind of thing takes on a family, is just awful. And every individual processes those emotions differently. And I'm an Aries, right? So I was always a leader and a strong person. And I just went, oh, wow, I don't even know what I thought. It was just such a terrible blow that it was surreal. That's the word. It was surreal. And I think that I just kind of went on from there, and I got married, had a family, and had no idea that I had stuffed all of those emotions all those years, and literally physiologically, that's a word, in my body, I stuffed those emotions, and it has to come out somewhere. Energy, emotions are just energy in motion, right? And so that energy, if it's not allowed to be processed correctly, literally manifests in my situation as autoimmune disease. Like I say, everyone is an individual, right? At some level. Actually, we're all one. That's another story. But we vibrate at certain frequencies. And when your emotions are off kilter, or you stuff emotions and don't process them out of your body correctly, let them go, you literally are causing damage to your tissues, chemically, physiologically. I don't know why I'm having such a problem with that word right now, but it causes damage to your tissues. We know it causes damage mentally, but literally, physically, to your tissues as well. I had no idea that's what happens to the human body with your emotions, that you cause actual physical damage. I come from a medical background. That didn't really ring that true to me until it happened to me. Well, then I had to learn, because of the pandemic, all of my appointments were canceled. I was scheduled for surgeries. I was supposed to have both knees replaced. I was scheduled to go to the cancer infusion treatment center. I had my rheumatoid arthritis was so terrible. My hands were gnarled. I couldn't even wrap them around a cup. And now look, I've straightened all my fingers out. They used to be really, I couldn't even make a fist or do anything like that. I couldn't grasp a pen, like I say, to even write my name. So imagine, fast forward, we're now in 2023. I'm not even the same person. And how did that happen? Well, I was just astonished as my doctors were. You can imagine, with that many illnesses, I had a lot of doctors. And, well, they all had very different reactions. It was really interesting. I almost took it on as a science project all by itself, just watching the reactions of my doctors when they saw my lab tests and saw that it was all back to normal after I'd been so ill, literally on my deathbed at times. They couldn't believe it. Excuse me. And neither could I. And I wanted answers. And why are you making me do all these things? You say you want to rip my knees out and put artificial knees in? You want to give me a liver transplant? You want me to do thus and so? Geez, the list was so long. And yet, you canceled my appointments, left me hanging. I understand there was a pandemic, but good God. So I did the only thing I knew to do, research. Come to find out, there was another way. Okay? And so that's what I did. I learned all about it, and boy, did it work. And I couldn't believe it. One doctor praised me and was very kind and said, geez, this is amazing. But of course, negative, right? Being a human, negative always sticks out more for some reason. Shame on us for that, right? The one doctor that sticks out like a sore thumb was the one that literally looked at me sideways, almost as if she didn't believe me, but she couldn't help it because she kept looking at my lab tests, and she actually ordered a new set of lab tests just to be sure. Sure enough, back to normal, and she couldn't believe it. She actually just was very kind of submissive and quiet and demure, let me go, and said, well, I guess I don't really need to see you again. But here's the kicker. That evening, I got a phone call in the middle of the night. You need to make sure you don't go spreading this around and talking about this. It'll get us in trouble here at the clinic. I said, what do you mean? They're my medical records. Why can't I share them? Well, they caught wind that I had a YouTube channel. They didn't want anybody to know. And I thought, wait a minute. If this actually helps some of your patients, why wouldn't you want them to know? That doesn't... Growing up in the medical community, as I had, I worked for a doctor for years and years, and he was very ethical, and that's what I was used to. I said, you're missing opportunities to help your patients. I'm telling you this worked for me. Why would you not want me to pass it on? You're going to get us in trouble. Don't do it or you might get sued. So, as I say, being an Aries, headstrong and determined, I pretty much said, bullshit. I am going to spread the word. You too can do this. There's nothing magic about it. It feels magical because it's so surreal. Come to find out, it's just nature. We all have the ability. We all had the ability all along. We all have the ability all along. We always will, we always had, we always do. It's a matter of, do you think you do? If you think it's not possible, then you're right. If you think it's possible, meaning the ability to heal yourself, then you're right. That's what I learned. And it all starts with being able to control your breath. And then it goes from there. There's more teachings than that, but that's the simplest, most basic, life-giving thing is your breath. And if you think about it, when you're upset, angry, sad, whatever it is, your breath changes, doesn't it? Of course it does. If you can recognize that when your breath is changing because your emotions are changing, and you can get a handle on that right away by recognizing it, you've already mastered a skill that gurus have. Mastery of your own breath. It's amazing how it can calm your autonomic nervous system down almost immediately. And that alone can combat so many illnesses once you put it into practice and incorporate it into your life. So that's why I thought it was so important to start while we're young. Teach our children the power of your breath. Whoops, that's the backside. So, yeah, it's called the breath dragon. And this little girl here learns all about it. And this wonderful, friendly dragon teaches her that, yeah, some slow, deep breaths can really not only change your mind, about your emotion that you're feeling at the time, but it can change your body chemistry and the outcome of whether you remain healthy or take on a disease like I did. I'm happy to say that I no longer deal with almost anything. I can't say that I'm perfectly cured, because really there's no such thing, right? Because it's a lifelong management. That's it. It's a lifelong management of recognizing your emotions, becoming an expert observer of your own emotions. And when you can do that and you can recognize, oh, I'm not feeling so great right now, that person or that event or thing feels triggering a little bit, whatever that may be for you, the simple skill of saying, I need to slow down and take a slow, deep breath, nourishes the body, helps to center you and focus your attention onto what's really real, what your heart and soul is trying to say, not what your fear or anger is trying to say, right? And so those are basic skills that I think all of us can benefit from. I know I wasn't taught as a kid. I wish I had been, but I know now, and man, has it made all the difference in the world. So please go on to Amazon, purchase the Breath Dragon, and give it to a little one that you know and love. And maybe they might just take it to heart and use it as a lifelong skill. Because boy, it's worth it, isn't it? It sure is. It sure is. If we could give our children a little skill like that, I think it's invaluable. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please subscribe and go to Amazon and purchase the book. I highly recommend it. And when you do, read it, look for yourself, check out all the beautiful illustrations and things that I did, and leave a comment, okay? Leave a comment on Amazon. Leave a rating. After all, that's how my book gets noticed. If you guys don't leave comments and ratings and help me out, might not ever get noticed. That's really how the logarithms work in the computer world, okay? So I appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. That's really groovy. Actually, that's really groovy. Thank you.